Good afternoon, friends, and welcome to another episode of our broadcast. Today, we're going to be talking about the 4 seasons of spiritual planting and what to do during those seasons. Okay, here we go. In the beginning, when God created the heavens and separated the light from the darkness, He also separated the spiritual seasons of planting and manifesting into 4 separate seasons, each with its own uniqueness, along with separating the morning from the evening. Now remember, God is a spiritual being. He only works and operates off the energies that are already there. If God wants to do something that requires water, He's not going to do that in the season of fire. Everything has its own season and purpose. And when God created His time of seasons and energies in the spirit realm in chapter 1 of Genesis, He then manifested and brought it down to earth in Genesis chapter 2. He brought it down when He created the earth, moon, and planets. God's seasons of spiritual planting manifested to earth in the form of the 4 seasons we all know and feel. But, how many knows, physical planting is different than spiritual planting? What causes each season to shift spiritual energies is the solstices and the equinoxes that God put in place. There are 2 of each. For physical planting like farming, the farmers start planting the seeds around spring, specifically, March 21st, the spring equinox. However, for spiritual planting, it starts with the autumnal equinox, which starts on September 22nd. Along with the solstices and equinoxes, there are also 4 spiritual elements that are in connection with the 4 spiritual seasons of planting that God put into place in the beginning of creation. The first one we're going to be talking about is the season of autumn or the season of earth. This season starts off with the autumnal equinox on September 22nd. That is when the spiritual energies shift from a season of fire and planning, into a season of earth and protection. Symbolically, earth is the protector and nurturing element. As God was showing me these things, He kept reminding me, does not nature itself teach you? The earth is there to nurture and protect the seeds, making them habitable for growth. This is the season where you plant the seeds that have already been strategically planned and not sporadically. But every season has its duration. You have access to this season of planting from September 22nd all the way to December 21st, the winter solstice, to plant any spiritual seeds worthy of righteousness. And how do you plant them? You plant them by works, meaning by what you do and what you say to yourself and other people. You only have access to each season for a short time. That's why Jesus keeps saying, work while it's day, night cometh where no man can work. It's because we only have a limited amount of time to operate in the season we're supposed to operate in, and if we miss the season, we will just have to wait a year until the season comes again. Next, we are going to go over the season of nurturing the seeds we have just planted in the autumn season. That season is the season of winter. Like the water element, this is the season to water and nurture the seeds that you have just planted. We start this season on the winter solstice, December 21st, all the way to the spring equinox on March 21st. During this season, it is best to water the seeds you have just planted, but how much water you pour depends on what you are planting. If you're planting something that requires more heat, you don't need to water it as much. This whole process takes time, and it doesn't happen just overnight. It happens within the course of a year. That is why God constantly puts emphasis on waiting for the right time and not going too far ahead, because that is when you start operating out of season. That is not to say you can't plant out of season, but it does make it harder and lessens the impact your seed will have, if you would have waited and planted it in the right season. The next season we will be talking about is the season of spring. This season of air is a season of growth and waiting, which starts on the spring equinox on March 21st, all the way to the summer solstice on June 20th. This is the season for long-suffering and patience. This waiting period, this is where you are a watcher. Your job is to simply watch and guard the seeds you have already planted and watered. You guard them by praying and using that eagle vision God gave us as His bride to keep the enemy from sowing tares amongst the wheat in our waiting period. And finally, after spring, comes the summer solstice on June 20th all the way to the autumnal equinox on September 22nd. This is the season of fire. By this time the spiritual harvest is ripe and ready. Now comes the season where you separate the wheat from the tares and burn the tares and the fields. After you burn the tares, you use them as fertilization to fertilize the fields for the next season, which is the season of autumn. After you purify and fertilize the fields, you then start preparing the fields by planning what kind of seeds you're going to plant in the next season. You plan by seeking God on what to plant and how to plant it. They that are led by the Spirit, they are the sons of God. So, by the time you are done with planning on where to put the seeds, the fields are clean, fertilized, and ready for the next season of planting. I hope you have enjoyed this episode. Don't forget to like and subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of our future videos. Have a nice week and I'll talk to you all guys next time.